big news. Let's have a look. What's this?
This is a really important update because it really matters. It matters to the people involved. It matters to the principals involved. It really matters to me, and I think perhaps it will matter to you as well. This is about my pro bono case here, which I'll explain very briefly in just a moment. But the update is there is no further action against the girl involved in this, and my client maintains that what she said all along was absolutely true. And in this video, I'm going to explain just how not just the police, in my view, but also news outlets can get this so badly wrong, to the point that they've withdrawn some of their comments about it. So that's an interesting quirk, which they will stay quiet about, most of them, but I'm not going to let them stay quiet about it. I'm going to bring it to your attention so you can see just how badly these things can go wrong. Now, in a very brief potted history of this, if you're not familiar with the case, this was just over a month or so ago. The police visited a girl to seize her mobile phone. They suspected her of being involved in something, but the girl's mother and the girl maintained that all she had done was to view a social media post.
Viewing a post. Viewing it.
That's what they maintained all along, and the police had other ideas.
What did they think?
There was also a separate complaint, which I won't go into, which appears to have been conflated in the background by the police in all this, and therefore seems to have confused things. Nonetheless, in short, the police entered the property without arresting the girl. I suggest that was without authority, meaning they were trespassers.
They
They
just
seized the
entered.
phone, which I say they had no authority to do so because they didn't arrest the girl. Therefore, they shouldn't have seized the phone. And that complaint is ongoing. But the substantive allegations, if you like, against the girl have been dropped. That she is no longer a person of interest because there is no evidence that she did what they say that she was being investigated
I wonder why it was. Tell us. What is this all about?
for. So before we go any further, if I could ask you the small favor of subscribing to the channel or making sure you're subscribed to the channel, I'd be really grateful because I enjoy helping people on this channel and in this pro bono work that I've done here. So thank you very much for that. Now, the reason this is so important is really simple. It shows just how easily somebody can be wrongly and innocently caught up in a police investigation, even though there's no evidence against them that they had anything to do
How ridiculous is that? Just that sentence itself is like, how ridiculous is that?
with that offence, just some sort of suspicion, which
Just
then led to the
suspicion.
police arriving at the property, going in the property, I say without appropriate authority because they didn't arrest her. Clearly, it would seem that they did not have sufficient evidence to arrest her because they didn't arrest her, and yet they seized the phone looking for evidence, suggesting that they are looking for the evidence that ties her to the offence, which ultimately they didn't find, and they returned the phone a short while ago, but not before causing a huge amount of distress. Now, even with the police press update, which
That's what they
I
do, the
say
cunts.
they shouldn't have done, at least not in the way that they did it, they gave far too much detail, in my view, and it's still up at the moment. It's still live as we speak, and it says that they're investigating some sort of fake account for sending what they said was indecent messages.
All of this, what? Indecent messages. What was it? From a girl. What did she do? What is this? You're busy doing this.
Now, to be clear, the police have issued a no further action against this girl, and yet the press statement remains live. There's no further update from the police that they've NFA'd this case against this girl. And so I think that, as with any news, if there is any statement like this, there should be a follow-up that says,
Clearing
this
the
is what's
name.
happened now. There is no evidence that she had anything to do with this.
Yeah.
And so this has now been dropped. But as I say, we wait a further press statement.
Okay.
What we have done, however, or rather the mother has done, is contact some of the news outlets that also wrote about this story, at least two of which have now withdrawn those articles. The
Why is that?
first of which is the New York Post that wrote about this and said UK cops deny arresting girl over social media post. Now, they didn't arrest her, so it was factually incorrect anyway. And that it said that it's probes indecent messages sent from a fake account. Again, emphasizing the offense that we say had nothing to do with her. We maintain that she only viewed this post. But as you can see from the top here,
Ridiculous.
this is the archived version, the internet archive version of this article, because this has now been removed. after the mother provided them some further information about the background and underlying complaint, which I won't go into in this video for their sake, but there's an underlying complaint. They have now removed this article. Likewise, Thomson Reuters fact-check document has also been withdrawn. As you can
This is suspicious to me. Why would they do that?
see here, this is an advisory from Thomson Reuters that this fact-check over this girl investigated over indecent messages, not for viewing a social media post, is withdrawn for checks because they too have received further information and they've decided to withdraw this fact-check document. So it is really important that when you see things, especially when it says fact-check or these are the full facts, you need to be really, really careful. Because very, very often it is not by far the full facts of any situation. And very often it is entirely misleading in itself. And speaking of things being misleading, this whole situation with President Trump suing the BBC
I was just about to say that. Yeah, look at that.
is also continuously misleading depending on the news source that you read. Allow me to demonstrate that for you. Now, my channel is partnered here with a company called Ground News, which provides you with multiple different BBC, hundreds of millions, if not billions of pounds. And there's also questions as to how likely he would be successful. Well, in reverse order, the admissions made by the chair, in my view, do scupper the BBC in that they admit that the edited version make it look like he incited violence, which is obviously false. It's obviously defamatory.
Yeah.
And even though it's brought in Florida, it would...
And they were like, what did they say? It was a mistake. It was clearly edited. Like, anyone can do it. No, what?
still be upheld because we have a parallel law here. As to how much the BBC would have to pay and in turn TV license fee payers would have to pay, as they've already admitted it would fall to TV license payers to pay.
See that? See what they say? Ah, that's hilarious, bro.
Because that's where the majority of the funding comes from. Even if there were a
That's
significant amount
hilarious.
of damages awarded or a settlement reached, it's very likely that it would be a more modest excess paid to insurers who would ultimately pick up the bill for it, rather than the whole lot landing on license fee payers. Although the BBC has already hinted that it's going to land a lot of this with license fee payers. But that will have to
That's
wait
ridiculous,
and see.
isn't
But
it?
it doesn't look like it's going away
The people
anytime
pay.
soon. But speaking of the BBC and things that they do and say that I don't agree with and that I think are highly questionable, I'd like to tell you about a little story of another reviewer of mine. And this is where I've taken issue with TV licensing in the past, for the last few years, actually, on my channel here.
Yeah, I've
I've
seen
had a
a
viewer of
couple.
mine write in who is 89 years old.
89.
Not on pension credit, therefore does not currently receive a free TV license. But a few years ago decided that they no longer wished or realized they don't watch or record live TV, therefore didn't need a TV license.
Yeah.
However, as you guessed, a couple of
They
years
force it
later,
on you.
she had several letters from an
Yeah.
enforcement manager on a near monthly
87-year-old.
basis, which she chose to ignore because she was of the view that she doesn't need a license, therefore didn't pay for a license and just ignored the letters. However, the letters kept coming, then the names changed and the tone of these letters increased. But then there was a new type of letter that came out, which she doesn't agree with. And
What they do is like gangster tactics. They do like extortion sort of tactics.
this has sent her into a
Fear
little bit of a panic.
tactics.
Bearing in mind she's 89 years old.
Yeah.
And
it's the last thing you know you need to be worrying about is TV license and that. At 89 years old. Oh, they're chasing her, 89-year-old. It's a sickness.
many people take the view that we should just let people watch TV regardless of a license fee, but by the by. But she doesn't watch or record live TV, she tells me. However, the new letter that came out said that the records held by the BBC show that BBC iPlayer has been used on multiple occasions. Now, she doesn't agree with this. The letter goes on to say, make sure you watch
Who even watches BBC? No one watches BBC that I know. It's like so silly.
watching BBC Player legally by a license. So somewhat forcing her into paying for a license out of fear, I suppose. But she says that the TV is unplugged. She doesn't watch live TV. She doesn't use BBC iPlayer. And the only thing she used is on one on-demand service. Never clicking any live buttons and never watching any live TV. And she says that as far as she can find from other sources and TV licensing, what she's doing is legal. Yet she keeps getting these letters and she's feeling increasingly threatened given her age and being somewhat vulnerable. She continues to receive letters with increasing regularity, an increasing level of
Sad.
threat within the wording, and
Sad.
what appears to be a false narrative that they have evidence that she watches BBC iPlayer.
Yeah.
Which she
Look at this, bro. We got evidence you're watching. You know you haven't watched it, and they're saying to you, no, we've got evidence. That's bullshit, bro.
is adamant that is false. Now, I don't know how many other people receive these letters that say that they've got some sort of evidence that you watch BBC iPlayer, when in fact you don't. But this really is quite alarming, because if they send you a letter to say that they've got some sort of evidence that...
Like they're telling you you're doing something that you know you didn't do. Oh, no, you did it. No, I didn't. You silly cunts.
you're doing something which actually you're not doing, so they can't have evidence of you doing it, that would be a misleading statement. And
literally, it will be a fear tactic, and it will put anxiety and all of that into people's hearts. So why would you want to do that? And let alone the 89-year-old, any person, you shouldn't be doing that to any person of a TV license. You nutters, BBC, fuck that. You lot are mad. But yeah, this is what they're endeavouring to do: put anxiety, put stress on people. What? Fuck that.
To what she's told me, and let me know if you've had this experience yourselves. That would be a misleading statement threatening you to push you into paying for a TV license. Now, I've made many comments before that some of these letters, in my view, may well...
It's like, nah, man, she's been paying these bills for years and years and years, and then now suddenly she's going to stop. Nah, she's still watching. She's still watching. Yeah. Extort her for the money for the rest of her life. Huh? Fuck off. Pieces of shit. Fuck off. Pedo harbingers and like pedo creators. Fuck off.
Cross the line. And ultimately, I think somebody might end up bringing this in court as a test case for harassment, because there have been cases...
I love to say harassment. I say harassment. Maybe I've been saying it wrong. Harassment.
I've talked about one in the past where solicitors were threatening legal action, and in that case they'd even told them that they had taken steps when in fact they hadn't. And the court in that case found that they were liable in harassment because they were continuously telling these people that they'd taken legal steps, or they were going to take further legal steps, when in fact they hadn't, and they didn't take any steps in that regard.
It's to put the fear in. That's fear-mongering, man. That's bullshit.
Now, a lot of the wording from TV licensing, in my view, is somewhat threatening, especially when they use the terms enforcement officer, because in the strictest sense of the word, they're not enforcing anything. If there's nothing to enforce, like a judgment or a payment order or anything else, then what is it they're...
It's what they're doing is that fear of that word. So someone not knowing will read and go, a man's going to come into our house and enforce the law on us. And they're picturing the man coming in taking away their stuff. Huh? Sickness.
Enforcing. At best, they're an investigation officer rather than an enforcement officer.
Tactics.
So ultimately, somebody might end up testing this in court, but they need to bear in mind that they might be at risk to costs. But they better bring everything together. A whole string of these letters show that they've acted in such a way which might cross the threshold into harassment. Harassment is only 2 occasions that cross the threshold that an ordinary person of reasonable firmness should be expected to bear, and that might cross the threshold into harassment. I'll try to remember to link my other video where I talked about that case in the description below. I think it would make for a very interesting case to bring to court. But let me know what you think in the comments if you've received such letters, particularly with regard to BBC iPlayer, when in fact you don't. Let me know your thoughts on any of this, and as always, thank you for watching.
Lovely. Well, not lovely, suspicious, but it is what it is, man. This is what the system is up to. This is what they're busy with. They chase you like to enforce this shit over what? Oh, I just looked at a post. I just looked at it. Psych my dick, psych my dick, dick, psych my culo, psych my dick, dick, psych my dick. Yeah, fucking bitches. I'll put them in the description when the time comes.